Rebel prince or same old story? Prince Edward might not be the most famous royal around, but he's no stranger to rocking the boat. In 1987, Prince Edward took part in a charity event that wasn't exactly seen as becoming for a royal. The Grand Knockout Tournament was a televised charity game show event that pitted an array of celebrities against each other in a series of challenges. Members of the royal family took part in the show too, playing the role of team captains while dressed in medieval-themed costumes. The royals who were brave enough to associate themselves with the TV special included Sarah, Duchess of York, Prince Andrew, Duke of York, Princess Anne, and Prince Edward. Perhaps, unsurprisingly, Queen Elizabeth II wanted absolutely nothing to do with the bizarre spectacle. The TV special portrayed the family in a fairly undignified manner, which evidently went against royal protocol at the time. It also didn't help that Edward left a presser in a huff after receiving unfavourable reviews, as journalists in attendance simply laughed when he asked how they liked the TV special.
What did you think of it? Thanks.
I thought it was great.
While it wasn't exactly a hit with the critics, the show did pretty well. 18 million Brits watched the royals and their celebrity colleagues participate in the shenanigans. Female royal wedding guests traditionally wear extravagant headpieces known as fascinators. However, this tradition was cast aside when Prince Edward and his wife, Sophie, asked their guests to abide by a no headpiece rule when they tied the knot in 1999. Alas, the Queen herself broke that rule when she sported her own feather fascinator. Though Sophie did not want to see hats on her big day, that's not to say she is not a fan of a chic headpiece. For example, the Duchess of Edinburgh donned a pink fascinator as a guest at Mike and Zara Tyndall's wedding in 2011. She was also seen in a leopard print hat at King Charles III and Queen Camilla's civil ceremony in 2005. Sophie also wore a headpiece during her own wedding, the Anthemian tiara, an item that is believed to have been made out of pieces from Queen Elizabeth II's collection. Prince Edward and Sophie's royal wedding was unusual in more ways than one. For example, the intimate nature of the ceremony meant that no military or ceremonial state officials were invited. What's more, they chose not to share a kiss in front of the cameras, a tradition that had been established by Charles and Diana. By all accounts, these were not so much acts of rebellion as they were a concerted attempt by the royals to remain under the radar following Princess Diana's death, which had occurred just 2 years earlier. DC jewellery founder Daniel O'Farrell later spoke to The Express about why Edward's wedding was so intentionally unconventional. He said, "Sophie, the Countess of Wessex, and Prince Edward are among the most unpretentious members of the British royal family, and their wedding in 1999 clearly reflected this. The bride and groom insisted on an informal family affair, minus all the ceremonial fuss and fanfare of Prince Edward's siblings' weddings." He went on to confirm the dress code for the wedding, including that pesky no hats rule, telling the publication, "In fact, the couple wanted their guests to be comfortable and requested everyone to come dressed in evening gowns or smart attire, but without any hats or headpieces." On the day of Prince Edward's wedding, he was set to receive the royal title of Duke of Cambridge. He declined the offer, however, and settled on the title of Earl of Wessex instead. Supposedly, Edward's desire to go with a different title was inspired by a movie. A courtier told The Telegraph in 2020, "Prince Edward was going to be the Duke of Cambridge, but he watched the film Shakespeare in Love, which had a character called the Earl of Wessex. He liked the sound of it and asked the Queen if he could have that instead."
I have an ancient name which will bring you preferment when your grandson is of Wessex.
Of course, Edward is now the Duke of Edinburgh, but that did not come about until 2023. King Charles III granted his brother the title following Queen Elizabeth II's passing. The title was last held by Edward's father, Prince Philip. Few royals have rejected the titles assigned to them and their children. Notably, even the estranged Duke and Duchess of Sussex seem to be just fine with their children holding HRH titles. Prince Edward decided against this, however, as he and Sophie didn't want their children to become too comfortable with royal life. In a 2020 interview, Sophie told The Times, We try to bring them up with the understanding they are very likely to have to work for a living. Hence, we made the decision not to use HRH titles. They have them and can decide to use them from 18, but I think it's highly unlikely. Edward and Sophie have also made efforts to protect the kids' privacy, which might be another reason why they weren't given HRH titles. In a BBC interview, Sophie said, "Certainly, when they were very young, we tried to keep them out of it." In 2022, Prince Edward stirred a little controversy after eagle-eyed viewers noticed he was the only royal who refused to sing the national anthem at that year's Royal Variety performance. This was the first event since Queen Elizabeth's passing, meaning that, for the first time in decades, the anthem featured the words, "God Save the King," in honour of King Charles III. Some viewers speculated that Edward didn't sing along with the lyrics due to some secret feud with Charles. Body language expert Judy James spoke to The Express about her interpretation of the prince's silence during the national anthem performance. She claimed, "Edward's body language gives some clues as to what his intention might have been. He is clearly adopting a pose of standing to attention while the anthem is sung. He is also doing nothing to hide his face or his facial expression, suggesting this was no form of oversight." James ultimately concluded that a blend of respect and affection suggested that Edward may have been dedicating the moment to his late mother.